What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another exciting episode of Switch Talk 2, the perfectly pocket-sized podcast for fans of this amazing hybrid console that's stolen our hearts and minds. Switch 2 is on a tear lately because they have released Donkey Kong Bananza. Finally, a Switch exclusive that I cannot put down. I'm here with my best bloods, Clay and David, and we're just going to get right into the show because there's quite a lot to talk about. No time for a get to know you question. If you don't know already, these guys right here are Donkey Kong fans. True through. They had a rare podcast called Rare and Friends. Look it up. The internet is forever. These guys know what they're talking about. I shared some of my initial thoughts on an episode of Megadad's Live. So I really want to sit back and probe them. I want to put a probe right inside of them and then see what happens. So let's just get right into it. I want to know your initial impressions of Donkey Kong Bananza, Clay.
All right, yeah. So I had this thing ready to go at midnight on release and was playing the second I could get it to work. And needless to say, I'm not seeing any audio waves from my mic. Are you guys
It's
hearing
fine.
me?
Yeah,
we see it. Yep.
Yeah, I see it. Yep.
Why can't I see it though?
I'll chop it up.
All right. As long as you're seeing it, we'll be good.
Okay, if this doesn't work, it's all your fault, Tony.
You stood up late. You played at midnight. How long did you play for in your
Played
first
till
session?
about 3 a.m. So I only played about 3 hours my first session, but then I got up the next morning on Saturday. Nope, that would have been Friday. No, it was Thursday. Got up Thursday and played for 6 to 7 hours, somewhere in there. Basically on my first day, and could not put it down. I was glued to it. Unfortunately, I had some social engagements that I could not reschedule that had to be done over the weekend, and so I had to walk away from it for a couple days. But man, I couldn't stop thinking about it. I felt like I'd found new love again. And just couldn't stop thinking about it, and would lie awake at night thinking about it. But man, I was glued, I was locked in, and I was having a blast on the first go around. It was everything I hoped for and more.
The way that I put it is like it lived up to the hype, because a lot of times, like, I seem to come down and being first hyped and then negative because I'm like, why didn't they do this? Why couldn't it have been better? But that's the way that I put it. Is it's one of those special games that, I don't want to oversell it, but I'm not when I say that it's addicting. What about it made it addicting specifically for you? What do you think is the secret sauce that makes you not be able to put it down for hours? Because that's what it is. When I sit and I say, oh, I'm going to play, it's where you're like, oops, it's 3 a.m. Like, it's happened to me. I've lost sleep over this. What is it about the game, do you think, is addicting?
So it's not the graphics, it's not the performance, it's the gameplay. Obviously, that's a big part of it, and then it's all the other little things that make Nintendo games what Nintendo games are known for. It's the charm, it's the music, it's the character animations and facial features, and all the little things, all the extra little things they thought through. None of this feels like a thrown together last minute, quick to get it out. They've thought of everything, and it all comes together, and it's so aesthetically pleasing as a gamer to play it, and it's just something you have to experience it to fully grasp it and understand it, in my opinion.
David, first impressions of Donkey Kong Bonanza. Did it live up to your expectations? Did it blow them out of the water?
I will say so. I think probably even better than like I was initially expecting, just from seeing like the video, because it was like I was kind of worried it was just going to be like, I don't know if Minecrafty is the right word, but you're just going to be like dropped into open area, and all you're going to do is just like pound through, like, kind of directionlessly pounding through dirt and rock with very little like handcraftedness. So I was a little bit worried about that because Donkey Kong Country, in particular, what makes it so good is there's a certain like kind of flow to it where you can just kind of get in your groove, and it's just so satisfying. And I wasn't expecting this game to have kind of a flow to it where it's like I can just keep playing and I don't feel like I'm getting lost. I don't feel like I'm confused. It's just like almost like it has that Donkey Kong Country flow, even though it's a very different game, and it's very that wasn't expected. Um, so yeah, I'm very pleased. I also did not have as much time to play as I'd like because I've been moving. Um, so terrible time to release video games. Nintendo, stop it. Um, but but yeah, it's. I think I was telling my brother that I think it was like this is what DK64 should have been.
Mhm.
It feels like a better conversion of Donkey Kong to 3D than that ever was. Which kind of, as much as I enjoyed that game at the time, it was kind of a Banjo Kazooie skin reskin. It didn't really feel. I don't know. I didn't outside of like the characters. I didn't really feel as much like oh this has a feel of I'm playing a Donkey Kong game. And strangely, this one does. Despite being very, very different from Donkey Kong Country, somehow it also feels like Donkey Kong in 3D. I don't
I'm
know.
glad that you said flow because like I was describing it as I got into a zen like state for a while and I
Mm-hmm.
would just keep crushing things and keep exploring and keep finding things and keep unlocking things and it felt very like I just kept going and going and going back to like the addicting nature and I was just I couldn't stop for like hours and it was just so interesting to me how it was a dopamine it's dopamine incarnate like it's a dopamine machine. It's what I wanted the most out of the game was it to be like Mario Odyssey where you find a moon, then you find another moon, and then you find another and you have it just kind of keep going. Like you know that if you just explore enough, if you unlock a secret or you think you can hit that ledge. What's surprising about this game is if you go exploring, you think, okay, if I go there, maybe there's something. And then there's a whole area of things. And I thought to myself, I'm like, if I'm playing it this way and I did this thing, I bet that not everyone is playing it the same way. So I felt super rewarded for finding what I was finding. And I wanted to ask what the most surprising thing is for you. So something that you were not expecting. We saw the direct, we reacted to that. We had our impressions going in, but what about it really like surprised you? What didn't you expect, Clay, from the game?
Yeah, so I thought about this one for a while, and I don't have the best answer, but I'm sure as I continue to play, I'll think of more things. But I guess the one thing is just the sheer scope and size of these levels. When you see some of the demo or whatever, you can basically see, and even when you're playing the game, you can kind of see the whole area. It's not that big, but there's so many different areas that make up like one quote unquote level, with the going up and down of it, that every time I get into a new area, I just kind of it just gets added to the real estate of the level in my head. And so I don't know. Every time I go down into a new area, I keep thinking, all right, this is going to be the boss and it'll be the end of this area. But then there's just like a whole nother area with a whole nother thing to do and new things to unlock and find. And so it's way more expansive than I actually thought it was going to be. And I think a lot of us were a little worried that it was going to be kind of small.
Mhm.
Like I guess I haven't played Mario Odyssey recently enough to remember how big those levels were, but these feel smaller than them, but it still feels like there's so much more to explore, just because of the way that they did it. And I think that's really cool that they did it that way. It kind of helps you believe that you actually are underground.
Mhm.
And so
Yeah.
I was really impressed with that.
I am playing the game approaching it from a completionist standpoint, which I didn't think I was going to do at first because I wanted to my plan was to see more levels, go down deeper, see more and then later come back and really collect. But I just could not stop myself from finding the big golden bananas and then the fossils and then the more rare type of fossils, and I just kept going. And it was interesting that I found 44 because when you go into the menus and you look at the map and you look at the collectibles, if you want to probe in that way, I would suggest to people to not do it that way. But if you are looking for that information, you can see what you're missing. You find maps that point out how many more you're missing and where they are. I liked finding them naturally, and I did the majority of them just kind of searching, thinking, oh, there could be one here, and finding them accidentally, like all sorts of things. And that was very surprising to me, is just how, like you said, they're smaller than Odyssey, but also it feels like they're using every square inch to like house things and to have an activity, have like a challenge or have a platforming thing, or have like, it's just there's so much there, and they're using the real estate very smartly. Like there's a lot of bananas and a lot of collectibles in the first level. I'll just leave it at that. David, what's the most surprising thing? You weren't expecting it. It came out of left field. It was just surprising.
Um, I mean, I already kind of went. I think talked a little bit about it, just being surprised by how well the levels are designed. Um, but I'll go further into that a little bit and talk about the challenge stages and how much I
Yeah.
enjoy those.
Hmm.
In those challenge stages, I think are the closest thing I can think of to like Donkey Kong Country in 3D. It's just the music. It's got this cool vibey music. They're linear, and I don't know. I like really like a lot of times like challenge courses. I like it's just kind of like I'll do them. I'll come back and get them. Every time I find one, it's just like oh yeah, I want to do these because this is honestly one of the most fun parts of the game. They're really good. Um, so I think that kind of caught me off guard. It's just how good those challenge stages are. Um, and how much they become like a highlight and almost like a collectible in and of themselves because you want to go get them. I would say the bananas. This is not really going a little bit off tangent, but the bananas are I think almost too many. I get them
Hmm.
so much that it's almost like the dopamine hit of getting a banana is almost a little bit like reduced. But I think finding those challenge stage doors is almost like to me one of the most exciting things to stumble upon in the game, more so
Which
than
is
getting
crazy
bananas.
because usually when you find stuff like that in most games, you're like after a while you get kind of annoyed. You're like, oh great, here we go. I got to do this again.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
I even felt that way with some of the Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom ones where you go in and you have to do there was the shrines where it was like a combat simulation or whatever. Like after a while,
Yeah.
I kind of rolled my eyes when I would find those. Like, oh, it's one of these. Maybe I'm the the majority, not the minority on that.
Minor.
But yeah. So this is a thing that normally you're like after a while you're like, okay, can I just stop doing these challenge stages? Like I just want to play the game. But David's right. Like I never feel
Mhm.
that. I'm always like, yes, another one. Let's go. I do disagree
hmm
on the bananas though, David, because as for what the bananas do, I think that continues to create the excitement because who doesn't want to continue to love, power up their
right, right.
character. So what it does is exciting for me. I get what you're saying about when you can find that many of them.
Yeah,
It,
just
it
sometimes
does
the
get
time
old.
in between getting one to the other is so short that like I don't know, it's not quite as big of dopamine hit as it could be. But also, I imagine the more you play, that might get harder and harder to get them. But definitely early on, it just feels like they're freaking everywhere.
There are single bananas and then bunches of three,
Mhm.
and then the challenge rooms. Some of them are earn three in just this one smaller linear area. So you're collecting them and eating them and filling up the bar of, once you get five, you get a skill point, and then you may need multiple skill points to get to the next level of that tree to say, I'm going to up my strength or I'm going to get a new move or whatever it is. So it's definitely iterative and like definitely chunk by chunk, you're getting rewards. So I'm interested to see in the long term, because even now I'm at a point, I've had to have played 12 hours minimum so far, and I haven't unlocked a lot of the skill tree still. But I'm also again stuck on let me find everything I can in this level. So I'm playing it differently than others. The most surprising thing for me were the cosmetic unlocks, because I'm like, it would be it's so fun to say I'm going to change the hair color of Donkey Kong, and I have no idea why. Like when I showed our 5-year-old, she was freaking out. She's like, "I want those pants. I want that tie." And just like, I'm like, that's how I felt when I saw the little like shop. And not only that, but they make a difference. Like they will increase your stats or your abilities. And that right there just gave me, like, thank God it's not just collecting to collect, it's also to giving you something. And I wanted all, like, even if I wanted blue instead of green or whatever, like I want to buy both, like it, and I want to have them like look that way. It was, that was the most surprising thing for me. I'm like, they were very smart with this and made it feel like it was worth it.
Mhm.
um it just incredible. We can do another round of what we like because there's plenty. But I did want to hit on some criticisms, and I'll go first on this. There's an issue in the game where you're breaking a lot of stuff, and as you're breaking, you're grunting. And the prevalent sound effect, if you're playing the way I am, which is just kind of breaking everything, is it's crunching and grunting. And to me, I was having two thoughts. I'm like, I wish I could reduce this sound. Again, Nintendo has locked down where you cannot increase the music volume compared to sound effect volume, and there are no sliders or anything like that. Same like Mario Kart World, which is pretty much driving me crazy. But I was thinking to myself, if they were to make these sounds more catchy. Like I was thinking of like when Mario collects a coin or when he breaks a block. I didn't get sick of that. But right around the 2-3 hour mark, it was getting really grating. And now I've come full circle on it. And the sound effects kind of just washed over where I don't even hear them anymore. In a bit. Same with collecting the bananas. When you collect the bananas, at first I was like, this isn't like, I don't feel like I'm opening a chest in Zelda. I don't feel like I'm getting a gold star in Mario. I don't feel like, these iconic sound effects. I'm like, these could be better. That was, and the reason that sticks out for me is because you're breaking stuff and grunting all the damn time. But that was my big one. What about you, David? Can you give me a negative?
Um, that's hard. I don't think there's anything like really, really major.
You think about it. Going over to
Okay.
Clay. Going over to Clay
Yeah.
for a negative.
Yeah. So I guess the one thing I noticed, and I thought maybe it was a glitch, but then I started reading about it, and I wonder if maybe it isn't. From time to time, I notice when I'm inside of like a cave or something, and I look outside or I swing the camera outside, there's like a brown
Yeah.
overlay in the sky or whatever.
Hmm.
It's hard to explain. I have footage of it, but it just, I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but I think it has a hard time sometimes when you're inside. The camera is like seeing dirt, even though you can see it's hard to explain, but there's some kind of weird visual thing that when you go from outside to inside really fast, everything looks kind of brown, and then all of a sudden it goes away and you can see clearly the sky. I don't know if you guys have noticed that, but keep an eye out for it. It's something I definitely noticed. I don't know if it's a glitch or if it's something that just comes with the territory when you create a game like this. But it's a little jarring at times, and just kind of, I guess it kind of takes you out of it a little bit. I'm not really particular about that kind of stuff, but that did bug me a little bit. Tony, I didn't really have as many issues with the audio. I did notice at one point I was doing the ground pound that you do to pick
Hmm.
things up, and I was spamming that so much that it felt like the same audio just over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And like, I think my wife happened to be in the room at the time, and I was a little
She's
more
like, what
heightened
are
to it.
you
Like,
doing?
is this annoying right now to her? But she didn't say anything, and so it's like, it's probably fine. But I didn't think about that there is some repetitive audio going on at times. But um, those are the two things that I've noticed so far. I did think that having Pauline on my back was going to get really annoying,
Hmm.
but it isn't. I actually just kind of forget she's there.
Yeah, I don't notice she's there
She
either.
just
Yeah.
kind of blends in a little bit because she's so
Hmm.
tiny. One thing I did like about her being there, I think it's really cool. Anytime you get within within view of a banana, she goes, "Oh, a banana."
Yeah.
And there's actually been, and at first I was like, that's dumb. Like, why did they need to add that? Like, I know there's a banana there. But there's been a couple times where I've like walked out and there was a banana like to my right, but I just immediately turned left and started running.
Yeah.
And she said, "Oh, a banana." And I literally turned around and there it was. And I was like, oh, I probably would have, I'm sure I would have found it later, but like completely missed it. And her saying that, like, so little touches like that I think are really nice.
I like her voice and I like her as a character surprisingly so far. The only thing I don't like is she's like apprehensive about singing, and I don't think that makes sense. But because she's always kind of saying she doesn't want to sing, but
But
then she
that's
does
not
it.
her, dude. This is a different or an earlier version of her.
You're lying to
she's
yourself.
she's turning into this is all predictions. I haven't seen the end of the game. I have no idea. But she is not the professional singer that is the mayor of New Donk City yet. This is
Of
her,
course,
like,
I mean,
this
she's
is
gonna,
her,
that's her though. That
this
she's
is her
gonna grow
origin
into.
story though. You're
Sure.
not born a confident singer. You have to,
I guess you're right.
and so enjoy
The-
that. Get ready for it as she grows. By the end, she'll be so confident. It's going to be awesome.
The first level really scared me because the camera does not work good in the
Yeah.
first confined level. Like I was literally like, oh, they messed up. It doesn't work because what's happening is you can dig into very confined spaces, and let's just say you dig straight down. There's three things you're seeing. You're seeing yourself without, where it kind of says, oh, we're going to show you what it is as if there is no rock between you. You're just seeing Donkey Kong in the space. And then there's the silhouette thing, and they do the silhouette thing, which we're all have seen and familiar with. And then they do this where the camera zoinks out, and it's like you kind of know where you are. And if you spin the camera correctly, you'll get into one of the other two modes, and you have to start getting like good at that, and you start understanding like, here's what the game can handle, here's what angle will let me visibly see like 90% of the time. And then later on when the levels open up, it becomes even less of an issue because you're really doing that less, is so to speak. But I thought it wasn't going to work, and then surprisingly, the more I play, the less of an issue it becomes, and then it just kind of. I think the player is doing some of the heavy lifting to make it work when you're adjusting the camera yourself. When you're like, okay, I probably could dig this way, but here's really the optimal way if I want to see where I'm going, and then you just kind of go like that. David, I need a negative from you. I mean, I can. Are you loving the music in the game? Because to me, level like 1 was grating the music, like the underground mine that you start out. I'm like, this is not good.
Yeah,
And then the first level was great, but then I didn't really notice the challenge levels music too much.
Really, I
You
love
said
the
you love
challenge.
that.
Yeah.
So all that's living up to your
For
expectations?
the most part, I really like the music, but there are a couple that are not that great. Like I remember, I think it was the one in the kind of Wild Westy stage I didn't really love. So this is, I don't know, the music quality. So I guess that is kind of a negative. It does seem a little bit over the place. It goes from like really good to being kind of forgettable. But still, on the whole, like when it is good, like I think it's really good. But I don't think that's a massive negative. Oh, I will say, wish there was more Kongs playable. That's a negative. I always complain about that though. Just let me play as Diddy and Dixie.
Now, I'm not going to spoil anything for you, David, but I wouldn't put it past them that they have an ace up their sleeve. None of us have beaten the game. We're not, toward the end. I don't even think, so to speak, even someone like Clay who's really eaten into it. But if it's the same Mario Odyssey team, I did hear something about like there being more to the game, like a not new game plus, but like basically more, and like a spin, something that'll put it on its head. So I wouldn't put it past them. What's up, Clay?
Yeah, I agree about the music part of it. I don't think anything's been super obnoxious at this point. Outside of, there was one song, I can't remember what world it is, but it has like a ticking clock in the song, which
Ouch.
is weird, and it makes me like it makes me tense. It makes me nervous, and I
Yeah.
just I don't. It's a weird addition, but it's not so far. It's not the bangers that like are going to cause me to want to like listen to this at work or something. It's all serviceable, but it all kind of feels like Mario music, just kind of put in a Donkey Kong game. And so obviously the Donkey Kong covers that I just haven't heard a lot of them, and maybe there's more as the further we get in, but there just it doesn't feel like and I don't want it to be all like callbacks to old songs, but it's just none of this is as good as say Tropical Freeze. And I know that
Yeah.
that's the original composer and stuff, but even that music was like a new sound, but still felt very Donkey Kong. And I don't know. So I'm hoping that there's still some good music left to go. The other thing I was going to mention, I freaking forgot now, and that's frustrating me. But frick, come back to me.
Maybe it'll come back. J- this is treading a little bit of the
I
same
know what it
ground.
is. Let me go. Let me
Go,
go.
go, go,
Sorry.
go before you miss it.
The only other thing I've noticed so far is it seems a little bit easy.
Yeah.
The difficulty seems a little light. I do think that it has already started to get a little bit more difficult, and I think it will continue to ramp up as the game goes on, and so that may change. But like Tony said, I've heard rumors of some sort of like post game, like more difficult version that you could replay through, and the fact that you can continue to just get more and more hearts is kind of wild. I think having the rooms that you sleep in already give you more hearts on top of what you already have is pretty crazy. And then the fact that you can continue to spend your fossils to get more hearts, I'm like, what is this, a Zelda game? Like, it doesn't ever feel like, and yeah, I've died, don't get me wrong, like there's been times where it hasn't been very often, maybe once or twice that I've died, and it's because of like lava or something stupid. But I am curious to see. I think you could honestly challenge yourself. Just don't upgrade your hearts and don't sleep in those your little hangout crib areas,
Mhm.
and you could leave your hearts real low, and it would be more challenging. But I'm curious to see how the challenge is at the end of this. But for right now, it's a little easy, and that's probably good because Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze and Returns were notoriously difficult and
Yeah.
not really for
Yes.
kids. And so I get that this is for kids, and it's still really enjoyable even with it being easy. But like the bosses, I don't want to spoil it, but just Donkey Kong's known for having difficult bosses, at least to a certain degree, and these all seem just really simple. So
Well,
just
at
for
least
what it's
having a
worth.
mechanic to it, right? And there are, but the first boss I beat in 3 seconds, and I did it on accident, and I recorded it because I wanted to commentate on that. And then the second boss wasn't too far from that. The the challenge rooms make it feel like this is a game that adults can and should be playing. I'm like, okay, good. I have something to shoot for that my 5-year-old just will not be able to do. I know they won't. And I have trouble with it. I died multiple times on these challenges or not doing the goal, like if it's a time thing or something like that. I've had to retry plenty on
Yep.
those. And I am happy for that. The exploring and finding things, yes, I found some on accident, but some I feel like I'm being rewarded for my genuine like curiosity, or I have done things where I think I've gotten stuff I'm not supposed to because I upgraded a certain ability, and that is just like fire. I have committed to not upgrading my hearts because I do want to keep a challenge to it. The it's all good, and I think that it's good enough to have me keep going. Like, you could argue that Mario Odyssey had stuff that were some moons out in the open, and you didn't need to collect them all for you to advance to the next area. It was just, it's more of a challenge and more of game for people who want to experience it that way, and it kind of lets you. All right, David, you're not going to say anything negative about it, which is totally
Yeah.
fine.
It,
So,
you have some points, especially about difficulty. That was one thing I did notice too, is that difficulty could be, because
what do
that's
you
one of the
got?
reasons I enjoy the challenges. It's the most favorite part of the game is the bosses don't really do anything for me. You just pound through them. So yeah, you're right about that. I'll agree with you on that point.
What do you got, Clay?
The only thing I wanted to mention, golly, my short term memory is really bad right now. Um, frick, I literally had a
I
thing.
am very, very lukewarm on the. I don't think it's a spoiler. It was in the direct. Your ultra form just being stronger. I don't want to be stronger. The power fantasy really isn't. I'm. I don't know. I felt like this is a genius balancing of, hey, you can destroy almost anything, and you can jump so high, and you could do certain things. You have a very diverse move set, but at a certain point, I don't want to use the Bonanza Hulk form. What do you think, Clay?
Yeah, that's actually what I was going to bring up. I actually think they use it the appropriate amount. I don't think they use it too much. I don't think they focus too heavily on it. And I think you can play. And I've only have two of them right. I only have two of them right now. But I think so far I've noticed that there are parts where you have to use it. There's some challenges you have to use it. But for the most part, if you don't want to, you mostly don't have to. At least as far as I am right now. And so I appreciate that about it. Is half the time I forget it's there, and I'm like, oh, I need to like clear out this area and look for anything. And it's like, oh man, I should be using my Bonanza because it'll just make this go so much faster. And
Yeah.
so I appreciate it's there. You don't have to use it. And so I don't know if I necessarily agree with you on this one. I've never been like annoyed, like, all right, you're making me use this too much. And maybe that changes in the late game. And there's probably a thing at the end where you have to use all of them like back to back to back, if I had to guess. But I don't mind that. I just hate when the gimmick, and I'm calling it a gimmick, and that may sound harsh, but the gimmick becomes way too much of the focal point. Like, I get it that Mario can dress up like a cat, but don't make me do it like the whole game. Like, just bring it from time to time and make it cool. And so I'm curious to see what the last one is like, and I'm curious to see how they use having all three of them together. But so far, it hasn't been annoying to me. So.
David, have you tried? What do you think of the radar mechanic and the like hitting to pick up everything around you? And which again also like the pinging for things that are underneath, finding maps to things that you haven't found yet. There's even like upgrades like, oh, do you want to find more chests? And then like I realized later that I may not want that to, because then it's like almost too much. I don't know. um but there's this whole idea of like, how much digging are you doing? I've gotten again in that Zen mode where I'm just constantly digging. Does do you feel like there's a balancing issue there at all, or you just kind of think that it's all working out with what you're finding underground and
I mean,
hidden rooms?
I guess it depends on your play style. I think like for me, I'm not. I'm just kind of. I don't know. I feel like I have a flow going, and then I usually end up at an objective. I haven't really started like scouring each area because I'm just having such a good time finding things organically. Like, and then usually when I eventually get to the point where it go down, it's like, oh, okay, guess I'm going down because I know it can always go back up later. So I'm just trying to play it very organically and not obsess over collectibles because I know I'm going to want to go back and do that later. It seems like the general flow of just kind of being led by how the game takes you seems to work out pretty well for me. Sometimes I'll find a map or something just randomly while punching through something. And every now and again, I'll be like, "Oh, I want to just go punch this mountain for fun or whatnot." But
Yeah.
I think if you get too drawn into it, you might lower your enjoyment a little bit if all you're doing is just digging instead of doing objectives. It might be less fun. So I
Yeah, I
think
might
some
have
of
to
it's
balance it out. I
yeah,
might have
I
to
think
balance it out a bit.
yeah, I think some of
Th-
it's down to the user.
there's an option. I don't know if you found it in the map where you can reset the terrain on a level. So if you
Yes.
leave and come back, it resets. But if you want to, you can reset the terrain. And also, it's tracking everything you're eating. So if you destroy rock, grass, metal, and there's these bars that fill up. And what I didn't realize at first is the completionist run is destroying like X amount, fill up the whole bar with destroyed metal in this area. And it will reward you with, it just gives you a little gold, I think. But like it's basically like a little achievement system. And so you're always kind of working towards something, even the destruction part of it. One last round to wrap it up. If you have anything nice to say about the game, I can't say enough about the colors. There's a group of enemies that are just these little balls, and they attack in groups of like 15, 20. And they just pop up, and all of a sudden they come at you, and they're each individually different bright ass colors, and they're rolling around, and they're like, jumping on you, and you're rolling through them and knocking them out, and the colors are just insane. Like, it's so vibrant, and I loved it. I'm like, I'm sitting there with my jaw open, like, this game kicks ass graphically, in my opinion. Like, there's the enemy design is just great. The colors of every level as they change, I'm like, yeah, this is a different palette. Like, I just love it. I even fucking Donkey Kong, who I was hating on his like emote and the color of his fur and all this stuff, has grown on me. Clay, anything else you want to say about the game? Anything you really
I mean,
liked?
it's just one that it's a game you got to experience to really appreciate the charm and the tone. I'm looking forward to seeing how they wrap up this relationship between the two characters. One of my favorite things, actually, that it's really cheesy and kind of weird, but I love every time that you sleep, because you get your hearts back. Every time you sleep, there's a little bit of a cut scene
Yeah,
of just audio dialogue between Pauline and Donkey Kong, where she just says something to him, and it's really cool. Like, it's super. It just helps build,
yeah,
the relationship, and it is different based on what area you're in, and it helps build some character and some. I don't know. I saw an article the other day, like, should every Disney game be like fully voice acted? And I think it's because her character is so lovable and charming, and so, man, I'm really hoping they tug on the heartstrings difficult, like, real heavily toward the end of the game, because I'm already kind of feeling it a little bit, and as the game is progressing, you're feeling like these two are becoming closer friends, and it's super charming.
mhm.
It's just it's really good. I'm loving it.
I love when you rest in the houses and then Polly just wakes you up in the middle of the night to ask you something stupid. There's a
Isn't that
little
great?
charm like
Isn't that
that.
great?
It is really good.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to the B plot, because like there's an A plot of, we're going to the core. There's a group of foes, and like the bosses that are incredibly easy and all that. That I'm not so interested about, but everything with the DK Pauline relationship and his origin, because they start hinting at it. You meet characters that you recognize. They start to say little tidbits of like, oh, like, because when you start the game, it very fast. It's like, oh, you're a miner, I guess, and then they just throw you in, and they say nothing else, but there are little tidbits in there of like, oh, here's where you came from, here's why you were doing what you were doing. And I hope that there's more of that plot, like the origin stuff, the like, how does this relate to the other games in the franchise stuff, like that I'm super interested in, and I hope what I've seen in the early hours isn't all there is. uh I wanted to wrap it up and say, in a minute, I need you to sell me the game and the Switch 2. I don't own a Switch 2 yet, but now Donkey Kong Bonanza's here. Should I be buying the system in the game? Is it a system seller? Clay.
I don't even want to sit here and tell you why you should play this game, because I'd rather be playing the game right now than talking to you.
I don't
But
have time to convince you to buy
yeah,
the
right.
Switch 2
Like
and to
like
buy the game. Like, I don't care about your enjoyment. I'm gonna go enjoy that shit right now.
I mean, I'd point to the reviews and the 10 out of 10s that you're seeing, and I would say, for me personally, I mean, obviously I haven't beat the game, but so far those reviews hold up really well, and I can see why people are reviewing it the way they are. And so I would say look at the general consensus, and I'd say it's pretty accurate. I'd say if you're a person who loved Mario Odyssey, you can't sleep on this game. I think it's the closest you're going to get to a sequel for a while, but it has its own identity, to the point that it's something new and refreshing, that you get a Mario Odyssey sequel without just more cappy and more like of the same. It's a whole new take on it, but with all the charm and things that made all of us addicted to that game to begin with. And you can't play it on any other console, so you have to buy a Switch too.
Mm-hmm.
David, sell the people on Donkey Kong Bonanza and Switch 2.
I mean, a lot of just what Clay said. I mean, to me the true launch title. Yeah, no Mario Kart World was technically it, but like this is the big flagship title that comes out with every new Nintendo console that you have to buy to be part of the conversation and just to experience it. It's it. It's the flagship Nintendo. It's the Breath of the Wild. It's the Super Mario 64 or maybe Luigi's Mansion, but we don't talk about that one. It was fun. It's a fun game, just not really a system seller. But yeah, it's the big game. The get the console in people's hands, and yeah, like what Clay said, you should just play it and experience it. It's not like anything else I've played before. It's crazy that Nintendo's still doing this and able to just do something that like everyone is probably going to copy down the line, just like Breath of the Wild and Super Mario 64 and other launch titles. Like people are going to look at this game and be like, oh yeah, I want to make a game like this. So
I believe that there's not many games that you just can't put down, and this is one of them. It's addicting, and a game that's as good enough to be can't put down, can't sleep, gotta play more addicting. That's rare, and that's why you should play this game. And I am not at all regretting my Switch 2 purchase now. Like if this is what Nintendo, the type of stuff Nintendo has with World, the improvements to things like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, and now Donkey Kong Bonanza, like I'm super excited for the future. Clay?
I saw somebody online today say that this game is basically the combination of, I think it's 4 games: Breath of the Wild, Mario Odyssey, the newest Kirby game that came out where you could eat like vehicles and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and there was a Hulk game on there. The
Incredible
Incredible Hulk,
Destruction.
Ultimate Destruction.
Ultimate
Yeah,
Destruction.
yeah, and it was saying that those 4 games or 5 games, whatever it is, make this game. And I haven't played the Hulk game, but the other ones, I'm like, okay, yeah, actually, I could see that. And so maybe if you like those games, you should check this out.
This will not be the last time we discuss this game for a couple reasons. One of them being it's obviously so good. And I think there's going to be more to talk about in the future. Once we wrap it up, we could do like a spoiler cast type thing. But there's
Yes.
just so much. We haven't talked about co op mode, the photography mode. There's that little sculpting thing. We didn't even touch about it. I tried it. There is a number of RPG mechanics that keep expanding that I haven't seen yet, and the skill trees and things like that. There's more to this game. It's huge, it's gigantic. It's it's way better than I thought it was going to be, and I'm super happy with it. Join us next time everybody for another exciting episode of Switch 2. We'll see you next time.